Good morning everyone, and welcome to this Small Business Saturday Inspire series. Really pleased to be here, and thank you to Small Business Saturday for hosting us. I am Abby Freeman, I'm from We Are Pop-Up, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Kayleigh from Permanent Pop-Up, who's going to be telling us about her experiences as well. So really good to be here to meet you guys. We Are Pop-Up is a platform for creative retailers. So for us, working with Small Business Saturday is excellent because the day itself is really in tune with, our passion, which is the high street having vibrant, creative ideas happening on the high street. Our website, wearepopup.com, connects creative retailers. So we have brands, we have spaces. Brands and spaces can register and list what they do as a business. And then we connect them directly. We're not an agent, we're not a middleman. We want to step out of the way and help you as a business do what you do best, which is understand your business and know how to grow it. So by connecting retailers and brands, we help launch ideas onto the high street. You can find a space, you can book it, you can pay through the website, and we've tried to make it as quick and easy as possible to access retail space and to launch your idea, your event, your pop-up onto the high street quickly and easily. We have been going for a few years now. We've launched over 1,000 ideas onto the high street. So what I really wanted to run through today was a few examples of what we've seen in that time, and then hand over to Kayleigh, who's a real life example of just one of the ways that people are using We Are Pop-Up to build and grow their business. When we started out, Pop-Up was a bit of a fringe activity, but in the time we've been going, we've really seen it grow. And what's really exciting now is to see that it's totally, it's a viable sector and it's a viable way that businesses are using the high street to grow. So in the UK now, it's worth £2.3 billion. There are over 10,000 pop-up shops, and it's growing at a rate of 12.1% or more per year. So as you can see, it's not a flash in the pan activity. It's now really a credible and a viable activity to think about, whether you're a retailer or whether you're a brand that doesn't yet have a bricks and mortar space. The growth we've seen in the sector has been astonishing, really exciting for us to see how businesses are picking this up and run with it. So pop-ups, what does it all mean? What's it all for? Through short-term retail, we see that businesses are using short-term retail to, in a number of different ways. And I think if you're thinking about pop-up either as a retailer or as a brand, it's really important to, from the start, think about what is important to you and your business in particular, rather than the generic things. So I'm going to run through a few examples of how businesses are using pop-ups. But as I talk and as you hear about Kayleigh's experiences as well, I think, bear in mind that there might only be one point we talk about that's particularly relevant to your business. We work with businesses across all sectors. So on the brand side, we have a lot of fashion. We have a lot of homewares. Food is a really creative and exciting segment as well that's growing a lot in popularity, and it's gone again, it's changed even in the time we've been operating. But alongside that, we have a lot of other businesses as well. So pop-up's really something that you can use creatively to suit your kind of brand. When we started out as well, it's interesting to note that we worked with the quite traditional model you'd probably expect, which is one empty space, one brand. That's the traditional model of the pop-up that most people know and expect. And that's great, that was working really well. But we soon realised that there were a lot of early stage customers or customers that maybe didn't have the whole product line on the brand side. They didn't have enough maybe budget, maybe product, maybe time to take on and manage a full space. So we launched something we call ShopShare, which is where you can rent out a rail or a shelf or a table, similar to what you were describing earlier, within an existing retail environment. And when we hear from Kayleigh in a moment, it's a brilliant example of how we've really picked up and run with the ShopShare idea that we find really exciting. So ShopShare for us has been really exciting to see how retailers are using it not only to rent out part of their space, you know, you can make revenue from it, but it's also a way to collaborate. And you know, now we're seeing florists working with ice cream brands, we're seeing juice bars in hairdressers, we're seeing coffee shops in fashion boutiques, and you know, the possibilities are endless. So ShopShare, that ability to rent out a part of a shop, or as a retailer with a shop to bring in a brand, you know, you can curate and bring in a brand. You can go onto a website and shop for shops, you know, you can shop for a brand that you want to bring into your retail space. That's been quite an exciting, you know, relatively new development for us, and I think that's something that we'd love to see more Small Business Saturday retailers sort of picking up and running with. So for us, that's a particular area of the business that we watch with interest. So, you know, why pop up? What's it going to do for your brand? I think one of the main reasons that we see brands, you know, using short-term retail now is to test. You know, why take on a 10-year lease if you don't know yet if that area is going to be right for you, or you don't know if physical retail is going to be right for you? Maybe you're already retailing online and you want to test offline. So it's great to see that, you know, for example, we've got a Swiss brand that called Heritage Collection. They knew they wanted to be in the UK, but they didn't know exactly where. So using ShopShare, they've now picked 2 locations and they're testing those in different parts of town to see, okay, you know, where's the best location for us? And based on that, they'll pick the winner and they'll locate there. So I think, first of all, to test the market is really great. And if you're already retailing online, you've got the benefit that you've already got the data. You know, every time someone buys your product, hopefully you're collecting their postal address, you're collecting some kind of data about them that you can use to inform your decision of where you're going to pop up. So I think to test a market and then use that pop-up to measure, to look at, you know, is it profitable? What are my setup costs? Is my pricing right? Is my product range the right product range for that part of town? Who are the neighbours? Does my product range and my pricing fit in with them? You know, I thought Notting Hill was going to be great, but it turns out people in Shoreditch prefer that price point. You know, there's a lot you can look into and test different areas of town before you locate, or even test the format of the store. You know, you might find that a concession is much more suitable, or a multi-brand kind of offer. Then if you're just selling hats, you know, you may find that people don't necessarily think to go to a hat store, whereas they do think to go to a multi-brand, multi-offer store. So I think to really use short-term retail to test, it's great. We were talking earlier about international brands as well, and we've seen lots of international brands. You know, everyone wants to be in London. London is officially the most in-demand city globally, and it has the most international retailers here. So, you know, there's a lot of competition, but you're in a great place if you're able to access the high street in London. And you know, we see international retailers. We had the children's wear brand Galley, and other examples where they want to touch down in London. They don't know yet if physical retail is going to be right for them, so they use a pop-up to test. And that's a really, you know, exciting way to grow your business these days. That you've got the ability to move quickly, to be agile, and if it's not working, you can kill it. You can stop. You know, it's a lower risk way to test rather than signing on a 10-year lease and then struggling for 9 years of that. Hopefully not. Another thing that pop-ups are brilliant for, and this is probably what most of you know pop-ups for, is to raise awareness. You know, brand awareness. It's here today, gone tomorrow. It's going to hopefully grab news headlines and grab attention. So I think the brands that do it well really play to that as a strength, and really play on the fact that it's time bound. You know, if you don't buy it now, you're never going to buy it. If you don't come and experience it now, that experience will be gone forever. So I think that time bound element of short-term retail is, you know, it's a really interesting and exciting one. On our website, you can book anything from a day to 6 months, and actually you can book 6 months if you want to. You can stay. You know, we've got the permanent pop-up in the room, right? So we'll hear more about that later. But I think that ability to really build a timescale that suits you, and then really use that in your marketing and as a sort of sales tool, is a really big one. Launches are great for grabbing headlines if you plan it well in advance, and we come on to more sort of top tips on marketing and launching later, but that time-bound element is really good and really interesting, and helps you to raise your brand awareness wherever you locate. Why not go on tour across London, across the UK, across the world? We have spaces globally, so there's nothing to stop you using that as a strength, and then sort of here today, gone tomorrow, come and get it while you can. And just generally, I think we see that online brands, for example, that come offline see between a 12 and 25% uplift in their online traffic during the pop-up, but also for the 6 months beyond that. So it's really that, that physical, it's a physical advert as well for your brand if you do it well, and if you really sort of tell everyone you're there and shout about it. You can use that pop-up as a PR tool and to invite the press in, invite your customers in, meet them, chat to them, build that physical relationship that you can then help to sort of bring back online afterwards. And then I think the final sort of headline point for why pop-up might be great for your brand is what I touched on earlier about the ShopShare in particular. It's collaboration. You don't have to do it by yourself. Kayleigh, you'll have some great tips about this, but you'll have your database. If you're collaborating with another retailer or another brand, that doubles your database instantly. If you club together a few of you, same again. So I think that power in numbers, one, is a really great tool to have in your arsenal, and two, with a collaboration, you can come up with something that you couldn't do necessarily by yourself. So we have a boutique in Portobello Road called Katrine Phillips, and a ShopShare brand, fashion label, booked out part of her store. But off the back of conversations they had, they ended up jumping on a plane to Turkey together to buy material that they would both then use in their products and in their fashion lines, in their pieces, and they're going to build a whole story around that. So I think it's that kind of deeper collaboration that we love to see, and it's something that is really exciting, hopefully, for you as a creative retailer. It's something new that you can do with your brand that wasn't maybe possible before. So those are the sort of key points, and I think we could go on for hours about all the different benefits, but I think it's more interesting to sort of talk through real life examples and hear from Kayleigh about the benefits, but maybe also some of the challenges of how it's been. I think before we go into more detail, the other thing that's interesting to think about is being a business today. We've got more digital tools than ever before. We're live on Periscope. That's free. People are tweeting, absolutely free. You can build up a huge audience using all these digital tools, and it's a really exciting time to be doing business. At We Are Pop-Up, we see ourselves as a digital tool that helps you book a space in minutes. Our record was someone coming online, seeing the space they wanted and booking it within 7 minutes, and then popping up within 48 hours. So I think that toolkit that you've got now in front of you, all on your phone, is super exciting, and it's just an amazing time to be doing business in new ways that suit you on your own terms. So that's it from me for now. Kayleigh, really pleased to have you with us as well today. It'd be great to hear more about Permanent Pop-Up and how it's been so far, and plans with it.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Kayleigh Hill. I'm the founder of the Permanent Pop-Up. So the Permanent Pop-Up, in a nutshell, is a multi-brand store. So the concept is that we have a permanent shop that offers pop-up space. So it's providing that easy route to market for emerging brands. I'd just like to tell you a little bit about my background. I come from a fashion background. I studied footwear design. And I always knew that I wanted to be in the fashion industry somehow. And I had a really creative childhood. I think that was due to my mum. Any activity that we did was always creative. And when I graduated from university, I went to work abroad for Adidas in their headquarters. Fantastic experience. I got great knowledge and experience of working in a huge global company. You're very cocooned with the support of a massive global brand. But then I always wanted to, launch my own label, really get my own name and myself out there, which is very true for, a lot of fashion students. They actually want to have their own label one day, not just work for someone. So when I left Adidas, I moved to London with every intention of setting up a fantastic footwear label. And as a lot of people know, it is very, very different. It is, definitely not what you see on TV. I've had so many struggles. I think during the time that I was doing my shoes, I was working 2 to 3 jobs in hospitality, just picking up any bits of work I could, supplementing my income whilst I was selling my shoes. We'd have good months, we'd have bad months. And it finally got to the point where I kind of had 2 choices. If I wanted to do my shoes full time, I would probably have to move out of London, move out of where it's happening, probably move back home to my parents who live out of London and in a place where there's no opportunity, or stay in London, get a much better job, a much secure job, and kind of do my shoes on the side, on the back burner. And it was a very painful decision, but I decided to stay in London and put my shoes on the back burner, and it was that single moment that made me think there must be something I can create that can help startup brands, that can help emerging brands trying to break into the fashion industry, and provide them with a platform where they can easily, test their product on the high street, where they can, connect with other brands, and they can really put their product in front of the public. So that's really how the permanent pop-up was born. Our first shop, we're located in Soho, so we're in an amazing location. We're just off Brewer Street, so we're a couple of minutes from Piccadilly Circus. We're another 10-minute walk from Oxford Circus Station. So it's an area that is globally known, and it's somewhere where brands in store, when they advertise us on their website as a stockist, it's somewhere that's really credible. It gives them that instant bit of credibility to anyone that lands on their website or searches them. To say that you're stocked in Soho, everybody knows Soho. So that was really important for us, and I think choosing the location was probably the biggest challenge that we had, because I'm a small business myself. I was a startup, so we didn't have a massive funding to go into it, and the location, we wanted to have somewhere that wouldn't alienate brands that are maybe trying to push for a more luxury piece. As you know, there's a huge emphasis on handmade products these days, and you'll find that a lot of handmade products, they come at a higher price point because of the time and effort that you have to put into them, the quality of materials. So it was imperative for us to be in an area where people would actually welcome and accept that price point. So we ended up obviously in Soho. It's a fantastic location, and you can actually, if you're interested, have a look on the website, which is thepermanentpopup.com, for all the brands that we have on there at the moment. In store, we have, we try to keep it to around 25 to 30 brands, just because we don't want it to look like a jumbo sale or a marketplace. We want it to be really high-end retail where shoppers come in, they have a unique experience, they can find stuff that they wouldn't find on the high street. That's really our key goal, really. So that's really a bit about my experience, and I think for us choosing brands in the shop, we just really look for quality. I think that is something that a lot of small businesses and startup fashion brands really struggle with, that quality and finding the right manufacturers, the right production. They probably can only afford to have small production lines, so as Abby was saying, they're not going to be able to take over a huge store by themselves. So we wanted to give them the opportunity to share the shop with other brands. And as Abby also said, it's great for marketing and promotion, because the brands in store, whoever promotes the permanent pop-up as a shop, then ultimately promotes everyone else in the store as well, because they're drawing attention to the shop. I just like to, as a small business, rather than possibly on the design side of things, about if anyone's thinking of doing something and setting up their own business, or obviously everyone in here is interested in, you know, small businesses. I remember when we were setting up the shop, and we only had about 4 days to completely just set everything up ready for retail, because we had the brands ready to actually start with us. And it was just me, my mum and dad setting up things in the shop. We didn't have, you know, a team of people. As everyone knows, a small business, you have a low budget. So we, you know, we were day and night working there, putting rails up, putting shelves up, etc. And the day before we opened, I remember one of the rails had fallen off the wall and was on the floor. And at that moment, it was like my whole world had collapsed. I was thinking, how am I going to open tomorrow when I don't have any rails to hang the clothes? And I was panic mode, just completely, what am I going to do now? You know, there's not enough time to get another rail up. And I remember calling up my partner, and I was wailing down the phone at him, you know, and he just said, so? And I said, what do you mean, so? And he said, so can't you just put the clothes somewhere else for now, and then in a couple of days get the handyman to come and put up the rail? And I thought, oh yeah, I could actually. And I think that's a very abstract example of what I'm trying to say, but I think for small businesses, it's really about identifying what's a problem and what's an inconvenience, and I think that helps you as well with your route to market as well. So what are you trying to achieve from your brand, and by choosing pop-up spaces? So are you looking for more exposure? Are you looking for more the sales? That is really something that is, you know, going to, you know, either hinder or help your progression as a brand. And before we actually opened the shop, we had just a small little landing website that we set up for free. And a couple of weeks after that, we started, you know, reaching out to designers and reaching out to people, and then we joined the We Are Pop-Up platform. And that was brilliant for us, because automatically it just connected us with all these people looking for space. So, you know, platforms like We Are Pop-Up are absolutely invaluable to, you know, pop-up spaces and people that offer spaces, because it's, you know, people are then coming direct to you rather than you having to spend a lot of your time outreaching to people. So I think that kind of summarises the permanent pop-up and some of my experiences.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you know, we go there when we can in Soho, so I would highly recommend a visit after this today, because there's something for everyone, I think.
Yes,
fair to say in there, and it's a really, you know, I have high hopes for some of the brands in there, because I think they've got some gems that we've found.
Yeah.
So
we hope one day we'll have the next video method in there or something, you know.
yeah. So, and most of them quite early stage.
Yes. So we have quite a mix. We have very early stage brands that don't really have much social media. They don't have a very good web presence, but coming into the store, that instantly provides them with a physical connection to people as well. So it's that extra bit of exposure for them, and then they can actually start to build their social media around the feedback that they have from the shop, so the type of people that are buying their products. So it really helps them kind of fine tune their brand and their marketing strategy going forward.
Yeah. Should we talk a bit about some of our top tips, you know, what you've learned along the way and what we've seen from the brands and the retailers we've been working with? Whenever we do a session and invite questions, the first question is always, how much does it cost? So I think that's probably a good place to start, because I know that for, you know, everyone from early stage brands right up to the corporates, everyone's working to a budget, and pop-ups often something super new that it doesn't really sit in an obvious budget line actually. So that is the question we get asked, and you know, it's a very interesting one. I think, you know, from our perspective, it's really, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but it's really a how long is a piece of string question, because on the one side of things you can book a full sort of plaza opposite St James's Park for a few £1,000s a day. You know, we have full buildings, thousands of pounds a day, or prime retail locations where you can take on a full space. And then we have ShopShare, rails, shelves, tables. You know, you can be in permanent pop-up in Soho for from £8 a day, which is absolutely incredible. So I think the question that I would always put back to you is, what's your budget? And let's work back from that to create a pop-up solution that works for you. You know, there's every price point and every location that you can think of, and even some you might not filter. We've got a treehouse, we've got a brand popping up in Hoxton, you know, it's Hoxton Square Treehouse. We have, can I mention who they are? We have an amazing brand popping up on Monday in Hoxton Square in a treehouse, and you know, they didn't wake up and think we need to be in a treehouse, but I think that's what's so exciting about pop-ups, is if you have a budget and an objective in mind, then that's where you can get creative, you know, browse through the space we have, speak to people like Kayleigh.
So is it easy for customers to go?
It's not too treacherous. I think we want to have too much adventure in their pop-up. But you know, the point is that really, how much does it cost? It can be anything from the sort of £8 a day in Soho price point right up to take on a full building, and you know, for the more established brands or for the collectives, bigger budgets, and that works back from not only the cost of the space but to everything. So as we were talking about earlier, you can tweet and that's free. You can be on Periscope, you can be on Facebook, and that you can, you know, boost with budget, but that can all be free. Or you can engage an agency, you can work up a megabucks campaign, and really what you need to do is figure out your budget and your objectives, and then where you sit on that spectrum, I think.
I think We Are Pop-Up is great for that as well, because some brands, especially young brands, they don't exactly know what their budget should be.
Right.
I mean, it's something from personal experience. I was torn between, you know, where is my money going to be spent? I mean, I have little money, should I be spending it here, should I be spending it there? And I think when you go onto We Are Pop-Up, because you can see such an array of spaces from all different price points, it then helps you to kind of decide what's right for your brand. So I think that's really great that there is so much choice for people that they can think, okay, well, if I did then spend £100 this month here, I then have the rest of the money to spend here. So it really does help with setting up budgets as well, I think.
That's interesting. And I think what I would strongly recommend for anyone, retailer or brand, you know, if you have a space or if you have a brand you want to put in a space, for all of this, it's measure as well. So if you are spending budget, then you need to track what the return on that investment is. And it may be that you don't really sell, but you do see that 12 to 25% uplift in online traffic if you're driving customers back to your online presence, your e-commerce site. So I think really use, whether it's a day or a week or 6 months or longer, use that pop-up time to measure everything and track it, and you know, if it's working, do more, absolutely do more, put your budget there. If it's not working, stop, or change it up, you know. And I think this pop-up format as well, it is really exciting for being able to change it up. You can, within the store, move things around, or within the city, change locations until you find a formula that works for you.
I think also brands, sometimes they have the expectation that just because it goes into a pop-up, it's all of a sudden going to sell out completely. But it is, you know, work from both sides. So you should really take advantage of being in the pop-up space, and you know, using that to your advantage on your social media. You know, inviting people to come into the shop. You know, advertising it all over your website. But you should really, when thinking about doing a pop-up space, it's how to use that to your best advantage as well, I think.
Have any of the brands in your space done that really well or really not well? I mean, no naming shame, but but I think it's important to talk about the mistakes as well, because it's, you know, you learn from those, and it's not a failure that means you should quit. It's something you've learned that means you can change and move on. But no naming shame, but is there anything you've seen that's been not so good or been great?
Yeah, so we have a couple of brands that are really great, and they really get involved, and I think maybe it's due to obviously the amount of time that someone has to actually promote their own brand as well. So obviously some people are working full time, so it's not as easy for some people. But we have one brand in particular who, while she was in the shop, she was coming in most evenings and actually walking up and down Brewer Street, flyering and just handing out leaflets to people, encouraging people to come into the shop. So that's an example of a really active brand who was really, you know, trying to self-promote as well. And we find that really works. And obviously we do our own promotion as a shop as well, but it really does help when the brand is also promoting themselves. Some probably things that don't work as well are, like I said, if people, they are, especially for really small brands that don't have a great web presence, they come into the shop and they will, you know, just put their products in the shop. Obviously we set them up for retail, and we try to give them the best advice that we can, because, you know, we're starting to really know our customer now that comes into the shop. And I think sometimes brands, they really, because they're so passionate about their product, and it's just really good sometimes for them to listen to the advice about what works well in certain areas. So even though, like Abby was saying, you might have thought Notting Hill's a great area for your brand, it's going to do really well here, the pop-up owner or whoever's running that shop might say to you, you know, it's maybe not doing as well. You obviously be able to tell that from the sales that you get, and then, you know, it's time to move on to somewhere else, basically. So I think that could be one of the downfalls of a brand that specifically wants to be in a location so much that they're not really listening to the feedback from the customers.
That's interesting. Which brings us nicely onto the other massive question we always get asked, which is, where should I put my brand? And I think, you know, location is really interesting, really important to think about. So why, well, you touched on why Soho.
Yeah.
But I suppose for you and for the brands that then, you know, approach you to be in your shop, what's the thought process behind the location, or what are top tips on, you know, where to locate?
I would say, you know, doing a pop-up space or taking on a pop-up shop, it is a commitment, and it is something that you should probably research just a little bit before you decide to just jump in and do it, because location is very key. Fortunately, pop-up spaces offer you, you know, you can jump across multiple platforms, multiple spaces. But I think for us, when we're talking to designers that are interested in our shop, we want to know what their target customer is already, or what they think their target customer is already, and then, you know, feeding back to them, is it going to be right? Because we obviously don't want to stop people that is it going to fit our target customer as well. So location-wise, it's very important to think about your brand, your price point, how much you're selling your product for. That, I think location is probably one of the key things that brands should really consider, and also for the people that are offering the spaces as well, getting an insight straight away into the existing customers of the brands that's asking to come into the space.
I think you're right. I think, you know, in terms of location, when brands particularly approach us, you know, the first thing they want is footfall.
Yes.
And I wouldn't disagree, but yeah, I always ask back, okay, what kind of footfall? Because it's no good you being in amongst city workers if your demographic is,
Yes,
you know, 30-year-olds or mums. Like, I think to have either data driven, or for the more early stage brands, they don't have the data, just a pen picture. So, hey, my customer is Emma, she's 35, she loves this, she loves that, you know, she wears these kinds of labels. I think to really build up a real life persona of your customer, and then look around that location.
Yeah.
So are the neighbouring shops, are the, you know, the adjacencies we call them, are they similar kind of shops at similar kind of price points, or products that really complement your brand? So it's not just the volume of footfall, it's really the quality of it, and often it's better to be, you know, in maybe a slightly lower footfall location if it's absolutely a target demographic. I would always go for demographic over just volume. And then location-wise, there are other things, you know, especially for pop-up, I think, that you can really get creative with. So we have spaces that are off the beaten track. You know, we've got 1830s cottage in Bethnal Green. The treehouse we've already talked about, but those more sort of quirky spaces that you can really build a story around. Or, for example, a space that suits your brand. You know, don't go into an industrial metal warehouse if your brand is soft and floral and vintage. Maybe go for somewhere that aesthetically suits your brand a lot more as well. If you're going for a ShopShare, then that sort of match gets a bit easier because you can see the retail environment already if you're going in. Or for the retailer, you know, you can really pick a brand match that suits your current something new. You know, for example, we had a women's wear fashion boutique, Glassworks on Shoreditch High Street, that used us to source over 14 accessories and other women's wear independent designers. And once they've built that up to a successful level, they sourced a juice bar through us because they were like, right, we want to, now we've built up that sort of offer to similar demographic, we want to bring in really new people as well and just keep going. So I think that sort of understanding of your customer, understanding of where they are and what they like to do, and the price point is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was going to say as well, I think something that's very key is when you're thinking about going into a space, and especially in shared space, for example, it's all about how you present yourself as a brand as well. So every conversation that you have with someone, you are promoting your brand, and you are, the face of your brand. So being in the pop-up community, as you would say, it's really interesting to see how different brands present themselves, and it's almost like, I wouldn't say a mini interview, but you are, you want to be in this space, so you want to represent yourself in the best way you can, and I think that's a good tip as well for someone, a designer or a young brand that is approaching a space or a ShopShare, to approach it exactly in that way, as in, thinking that there are other brands that also want to be in the shop, because the shop space is limited. So it's really, presenting yourself in the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of this is a great exercise for you as a business. You're going to be out there selling yourself all the time. On We Are Pop-Up, we ask you to create a profile, whether you're a space or a brand, and people thank us because it helps. It's the first time they've had to present all that information in one place, and it's a great, what's your elevator pitch? How do you describe your business in a couple of sentences? It's a great way to distill that, and then translating your brand into a physical space it's an art, and it's something that you need to give thought. But what we always hear from the successful ones is, they put the customer first. So think about it from the customer's perspective. When they walk into the shop, what's the customer's experience? And I think that's a really good way to approach it. I'm conscious of time. I think we're almost up. So, we could go on for days about all of this, but should we go for some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've got a question about location, because I've been following your website for a while,
right?
And I'm struggling to know if it's the right location or not,
right?
Because my business is around children products.
Yeah.
And it's also international, because I'm bringing French brands here in the UK that are not known, and I've got an online business, and that's why it's important for me to have a presence, in a shop, to show people the quality I'm bringing, and I've started to do that. And when I started, I didn't know where to go, and I've done a lot of mistakes, in going in the wrong place, and you waste your time, you waste your money, you waste your energy, and you think, oh no, my brands are not good, nobody wants that. It's not right, it's just because you're not at the right location. So now, to find the right location, I need to find where are the families, or if there are schools around, and what's their social, the economic profile and all that. And I don't see that on your website, I can't really create a profile and see, oh, this location is the right one for me. The only way is, I need to go in London and see if that's the right place, but I don't have the time. So is there a way, to try to refine the search, to understand a bit more where it should be the right location, and then maybe do more research and go and see? But I can't really go everywhere I think it's the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a support team, so absolutely call them if you haven't yet. Give them a call, because they know the spaces. Bertie here is one of them. So have a chat with Bertie. We have Daniel in the office as well. So if you haven't already, then absolutely speak to them. I think another thing that's quite interesting is to look to another brand that's similar. I don't know your label, but you know, for example, Jojo Maman Bébé, you know, where are they located?
Yeah.
And absolutely, you know,
Yeah.
that's if it's a similar label, then it's going to be a similar location for you, so it doesn't even have to.
Yeah, so sometimes you think it's the right location. You know, for instance, I live near Notting Hill, so I know that there are places that are good. But in some places in Portobello, for instance, if you're into the arcades, it's not so good. Yeah. So you need to really know where exactly you need to be also. So it's not easy to find that.
Yeah, but I think looking to other brands that are comparable is a really good way to really sort of understand the location. And absolutely chat to 13, chat to them because they're on hand. Yeah.
They know everything about London.
Absolutely. For a lot of spaces, we bring them on, and a lot of the time we go to them, and a lot of the time we've met the owners and spent a lot of time looking at the area to find similar shops. So I think alongside looking at where other brands are positioning themselves is really important. Yeah. But definitely ask us about what the demographics like around the area. Because I understand you don't have the time to visit all of these places yourself.
It's like finding a house, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in that case, you usually do want to go. But the main thing is that the website puts you directly in contact with that landlord. So you build a relationship from there and ask them what's the built-up area like, who's in your shop, what's your kind of customer, and they're the best place really to give you an idea of whether your products will sell or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we've tried to cut out all of the middlemen in the middle, because you know your brand and what suits you, and you know the retailers know their customer with ShopShare, so that's why we connect you. You know, we don't want to sit in the middle of that. So Kayleigh, as a retailer, you know, we want you to speak directly. And Kayleigh can tell you exactly who comes in the shop, and you know, that kind of idea.
I think that is the best advice really, because you actually want to speak to the person who's running the shop. That would be instant access for you to know the demographic in that area. So that's probably the best thing that you could do. You know, going through We Are Pop-Up, you connect straight away to the person who's running the shop. So I think that's probably the best thing. Yeah, best thing for you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How do you approach a new space? Like, I know the shop, which I'm desperate to get contact of. I think that would be perfect for my pop-up, and I just can't get their contacts. Always closed, empty space, nice location.
We have means, so I'd love to know the address again. Yeah, our team would love to know the address.
Okay, I'll give you the address.
Yeah, it's that one. Yes. Great. Quick. When have we got till Small Business Saturday? That could be our mission.
Good.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We've got some questions from Twitter. So one is, I had a great pop-up, how do I take it up a notch without a big rent commitment?
Interesting. I mean, it'd be good to know, do you know any more about who they are?
It looks like a homewares brand.
Yeah. Homewares is a really interesting one. I think design in the UK is really exciting right now. You know, we just had London Design Week. You know, not knowing more about the homewares brand, but generally homewares, you know, it's a huge significant segment for us, and I think it's exciting times. They've already done one, brilliant, they know what they're getting into, and good, you know, great to hear that they want to go up a notch. I think there are a few options. One is to look to new locations, new cities, new destinations. I think that is a great way to take a concept that you know works and just repeat it rather than having to iterate it very quickly. The other one is to collaborate now. So pick a great ShopShare, and rather than just book the space, build a bit of a collaboration around it. So maybe they want to, I don't know, look to do a bit of a limited edition range with that ShopShare that's only available in that location, for example. I don't know if they're a buyer or a designer maker, so don't know, just chucking out some ideas, but you know, that limited edition collaboration they could create together with a really awesome ShopShare destination could be a fun one. Or why not take on a bigger space and invite in a couple of other brands, you know, in the same way Kayleigh sourced, I think more than 40 through our site now.
Yeah, you've had quite a few.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, there's a lot that you can do by collaborating that you couldn't do by yourself. So you know, yesterday we had London Terrariums booked with us, and they do workshops. You know, that kind of thing would fit really well. For example, alongside a homewares brand, get a space, bring in some collaborators and run events and workshops through. I think taking your pop-up that works and not completely spinning it and starting again, but really building out from that would be probably my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I think also depending on where the pop-up was and their budget for the pop-up, if it's working there and they can continue there, it's great to actually continue them whilst expanding into other areas as well, because you're already building up your custom base in that area, so it makes sense to stay there whilst expanding into other areas as well.
True, actually, we added a extend your booking button, and 30% of our users are extending now.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if it's working, and you can stay, why not stay as well? And keep going there, and yeah, get others as well.
I'm just going to drop for a second and say goodbye to our Periscope watchers, and if they can continue following the action on Twitter.